Today, I just want to give you a little bit of an overview of what's been happening across our various work streams. And after that, try to fit them together into the overall roadmap so you can see where we are on the roadmap and where we expect to go over the coming months. We have 12 work streams, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them. I have a couple of people who are joining me here to talk a little bit more about specific aspects, but we'll come to that in a minute. So we've made good, steady progress over the last PI. By no means everything that we hoped to achieve in the last PI has been completed. So there's still a lot of active development. We do have some pretty good things that we can. I've called it completion here. That's probably a mistake. It's that they have outputs that are almost ready to be used and are ready to be productionized. So the deployment tools workstream has now an IAC Lite ready to deploy MojaLoop in single instance environments, and that's ready to be tested. The MCM integration from the participation tools workstream, that's gone extremely well. Performance tuning has gone remarkably well, achieving something like 2000 TPS on relatively modest hardware. There have been significant supply chain security improvements, largely relating to issues found by the various AI tools that have appeared. And there's been significant work done towards the upcoming release 17.3.0. TigerBeetle integration, we'll talk about that in a little more depth later on. It's advanced significantly. We're on course to do a TigerBeetle based release of MojaLoop later this year. There is still some significant work to be done. The QA framework automation that you heard about yesterday, yep, that's still ongoing. PISP 2.0 is well advanced, but we have a workshop on that just after this, early next week. And the LEI integration, they're all still works in progress. You can go to our community website, community.mojaloop.io/active workstreams, and you can see very, very long summaries of each workstream there. Very informative. Sorry, I've lost my controls. There we go. So, participation tools. There's been significant work in refactoring MCM, and this workstream is now supporting its integration into both IAC and the new IAC Lite, that is a significant step forward. We're going to end up with a set of tools which make the onboarding of DFSP so much quicker and cheaper. And the aforementioned IAC Lite is nearing completion. It works with both on-prem and AWS for the deployment of MojaLoop in a single MojaLoop environment. QA framework, we already have a QA framework, but it's entirely manual at the moment, and it's being translated into a machine readable format. One of the 6 pillars is ready for testing and validation, and that's going to be carrying out fairly soon against IAC Lite deployments to ensure that everything is working in step. LEI addressing, Lola was talking about this earlier on. They've defined a new approach for MSMEs, which is particularly relevant for cross-border merchants, and we're working towards a proof of concept in the near future. PISP2, a complete rewrite of our PISP interface, has progressed rapidly. The base set of user stories is actually nearing completion. It's progressed much more quickly than I imagined, and I'm going to ask Yui to lead that work stream to talk about that in a moment. There's going to be a workshop after MojaCom to establish the additional use cases that we need to implement. This is based on feedback from adopters, upcoming and current adopters, about how they want to use PISP. Localization. has seen not just the translation of all our documentation into French, but also the establishment of a framework to help ensure that the two versions remain in lockstep, and also to support further languages according to demand. Again, this has been one of the stars of the last PI. That workstream has proceeded far more quickly than I ever anticipated. The ISO 222 workstream is awaiting formal evaluation of Moja's proposed new messages. A new focus on ISO 222's limited support for APIs and process definitions has emerged. And we expect that to be the focus of the next PI. Next, I want to just break up this monologue by introducing Yui Cancellai, who is the workstream lead for the PISP work in collaboration with Manzi, who's the management team lead. Yui is the technical team lead. So I'm going to hand over to Yui and ask her to talk about the onboarding experience for new contributors. I'll just stop sharing my screen and hand over to Yui.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks so much. And hi, everyone. As Paul mentioned, I'm a product manager, co-lead with Manzi. And as Paul mentioned, there have been a lot of progress in PISP, and I want to first thank you all the contributors. Like, it's because of our amazing open source community that step up and make the progress happen, and the core staff as well, especially Sam and Shashi, who has been guiding us on this journey. But there are two areas I want to discuss to share with the community. First is onboarding process, and second, improving developer experience. Right now we are specifically focused on the PISP, but I believe that all the stuff in the workstream can be upstream contribution to the Moja Loop community as a whole. So on onboarding, so we have 5x number of new PR open by first-time contributors, and we have reduced 50% on the time to first PR open by the new contributor as well. This improvement is a combination of improvement on issue tracking, issue prioritization, and onboarding document, and coupled with the AI coding assistant that has been come on the scene. So looking ahead in this area, what I want to focus on going forward will be, obviously, we want to continue improve the onboarding process so people can contribute easier and faster, but also thinking about how to onboard the AI coding assistant to Moja Loop in general as well, so that we can ensure a consistent and quality code contribute to the work stream. And the second part is improving developer experience. In terms of the progress we have made so far is we have installed new developer tools and infrastructure around PISP, new repository. We have migrated to TypeScript. It has been enabled, and we are in the process of migrating the existing code base to TypeScript as well. We will be turn on more integration tests and functional tests in the code base in the upcoming milestone. Now, on the exciting part about improving developer experience, I think the biggest challenge we are seeing so far with new contributor that can contribute, that come on board, are code review. And code review has always been a challenge in software development. In the age of AI assisted code, it has been like amp up more. There are more pull requests. Sorry if I use the word PR, I mean pull what is stand for pull requests. There have been more pull requests than ever, and it has been in a faster pace than we have seen. So the challenge will be how to solve code review process in a way that we can review the code efficiently while we maintain high standard, and we also take into account of the reviewer time, as well as what is a good amount of turnaround time for the community. So the workstream will be looking for a solution around this area in the upcoming weeks, together with the product development as that Paul have mentioned as well. So those are kind of the two areas that we are focusing on, and we have made progress. There are exciting things ahead, and I'm looking forward to work with the community in making it better for the contributor and developer alike. Thank you.
Thank you, Yuri. And I think we thank you not just for your work on the PASB workstream, but also the experience you're bringing in terms of onboarding new contributors, which is really important for the community as a whole. And we look forward to translating that learning into other work streams as well. So thank you for your help with that.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to move on now to returning to my presentation, if I may. Yep. Okay, next work stream, MojaLoop evolution. This is really about, well, the crucial part of it is updating the ledger technology to move from MySQL to TigerBeetle, a purpose-built technology for precisely this purpose. The integration is approaching code completion. Focus has moved to testing. We also have a clear focus on migration as well to support people moving from the existing ledger technology onto TigerBeetle. And there are a couple of additional sub work streams. There's one sub work stream focused on reporting. How do you report against the new ledger and at the same time against the old ledger technology? And also on the implementation of settlement v3, which is the new, much more flexible and scalable settlement technology. The performance work stream has carried out some significant work to focus on performance. And we took on a lot of feedback from system integrators who were having problems with reproducing the performance that we were seeing. And now we've addressed all of those, and we now have a demonstrated performance of around 2000 TPS on relatively modest hardware. And we're focusing now on improving the reproducibility of those results across different adopter environments. And we think we've resolved the majority of the discrepancies. Forensic audit, you heard from James earlier on, the infrastructure is now available. Work now moves to updating the MojaLoop code base to using it. So logging auditable events and also providing tools to examine the audit logs. Before I move on, I want to give Lewis Daly a chance to step up and talk to us about the state of the TigerBeetle integration and where he expects it to get to. So I'll stop sharing and over to you, Lewis.
Cool. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me once again. It's a pleasure to be here to share just a quick little update on what we've been working on, the TigerBeetle integration and the evolution workstream. So very quick background, we've heard it talked about a little bit. TigerBeetle is a transactions processing database designed to be a drop-in replacement for the clearing and settlement engine, MojaLoop. Our goal has always been to reach API parity, so be able to support the FSP IOP API, admin and settlement APIs, while minimizing the breaking changes. And we also want to add, we want to deliver something called a lockstep ledger, which I'll explain in just a second. So really, this comes down to a unified interface. And one of the trickiest things with this integration is how do we wrap all of the existing code in MojaLoop that does clearing and settlement behind one interface? And what we're going to have, or what we're working on, is we have this interface called a ledger. This is what we have on the left, and we're going to implement it 3 times. So we get good value for money here with the integration. Three different implementations of the same interface. We're going to have the existing SQL ledger, which is what we currently have, but wrapped with a new kind of like wrapped like a, I don't know, like a Christmas present. We're also going to have TigerBeetle ledger also wrapped. So they're going to look like the similar things on the outside, right? But the internals are quite different. And then finally, we're going to have lockstep ledger. And lockstep ledger is the 2 ledgers running together in lockstep so that we can verify that we haven't broken anything by moving to TigerBeetle. We've re-implemented the logic accurately, correctly. Yeah, and what you might notice here is we have this thing. We have prepare, fulfill. Those are the clearing functions, and then we have settle. And the more we got into this work, we realized, we have two different services. We have the central ledger, which does clearing, and we have central settlement, which does settlement, as the name suggests. And that really doesn't work for the integration. So one of the biggest tasks we've done in the last few months is to bring the central settlement code base into central ledger. And you can see here, this is a dependency tree. We have two different APIs. We have node packages, and we have two different projects that have to be separately maintained by the whole MojaLoop team. And what we did is we just put that code together in one into the central ledger, and makes it a lot simpler for us to maintain. And it also means that we can wrap all of that code, all of the existing implementation, the SQL ledger properly. So that's sort of the one big thing. The other thing that Paul mentioned as well is the integration test rewrite. So one of the other problems we've had, or challenges we've had with the implementation, is how hard it is to run single integration tests, how hard it is to debug, and also the speed leaves a lot to be desired, or left a lot to be desired. And I know this because I wrote the integration test runner like 5 years ago, and now I've come back and I'm like, okay, I think I've learned something in 5 years, so I think we can make that better. So we wrote this integration testing harness, which runs inside the test file. We've also got native Node.js test runners, which is just to say, like, the ecosystem's come a long way in 5 years, and we can do things now without adding dependencies that we used to have to do. So we can simplify the code base even more, reducing dependencies. There's also a bunch of MojaLoop API helpers, and the really cool thing is when we look at the time it takes to run integration tests with the previous test, it took like 16 minutes maybe on the CI infrastructure, and now it's down to 6 minutes, and we can make it actually even faster because we can parallelize each of these test files. Each of them can run in a separate environment. A new section, I added this in my last video I sent you guys, is side quests, and this is where we go and look at other things that we might be able to fix. And the one big one was removing some dependencies from central services shared. So this is a package we publish at MojaLoop that gets pulled in by just about every single repository. And it has a bunch of stuff in there that only got used maybe once or twice. These are dependencies that we're pulling in. And so by removing just widdershins, just one of these, this is the number of packages we managed to remove from every single code base in MojaLoop. And so it's great. We had Yui, thanks for sharing about the new contributors. If you're a new contributor, removing widdershins took 30 lines of code. You have to kind of know where to look, but it's actually, you would be surprised how much stuff is in there that maybe Node.js have actually implemented in the last 5 years or 7 years, or when it was last written. And just think about this as well. For every code base that we update, for every pull request we do, it takes about 30 minutes to 1 hour to go through and update the dependencies and make sure there's no vulnerabilities or remove the vulnerabilities. So imagine the collective work of us as a MojaLoop contributors, how much time we're spending just updating packages, and how much time we can save and put it towards useful contributions instead of just updating numbers and running tests again. So, okay, quick word on performance, and then that's it. That's it for me. I've got really good news and I've got really bad news. The bad news is that there's something funky going on with Central Services Stream. The last time I haven't done big benchmarks this time because I've been focusing on the tests. But the last time I did big benchmarks, I noticed that the Central Services Stream library, which is the thing that connects to Kafka, so the message buses, all these different services we have talk to each other through Kafka. And it's very important that those things can communicate very fast. And internally, we use Node RD Kafka, which is just the fastest possible Kafka library out there for Node.js. But I always felt really slow, and I couldn't really figure out why our Central Services Stream, which just uses the fastest thing, is quite slow. So yeah, this is the question: are we getting 100% native performance? And I did a bit of benchmarking. So this is 1 million messages just on my local machine, How long does it take to produce 1 million messages? Well, with Node RD Kafka, it takes just under 5 seconds. With Central Services Stream, it takes 15 seconds. And to consume 1 million messages, and this should be faster because you can consume in batches, right? So there's less overhead to consume as to produce. It takes under 3 seconds, but with Central Services Stream, it takes 15 seconds again. So at TigerBeetle, we call these low-hanging performance coconuts. We just have to reach up and grab them. They're right there, hanging there. This is probably a very easy fix to make. And all of a sudden, everything that pulls in the Central Services Streams library can get so much faster by maybe 3x or something. I mean, this is just latency. I didn't look at throughput. So yeah, that's it. Until next time, keep on racing. And thank you for your time. And thank you, Paul. I hand over back to you. I think you're muted there, Paul.
Yeah, I just realized. Yeah, no, thank you, Lewis. That last bit was a bit astonishing, really. But so that you managed to find this roadblock, and hopefully we'll be able to get around it. So thank you very much. Okay, moving on. I'll go back to my slides. Okay, so last 2 work streams of the 10, and the 2 that essentially keep everything running smoothly for us all. Platform quality and security. These are both led by Sam. Significant effort I've diverted to countering potential attacks discovered through the use of AI tools. I'm sure you've been aware of those attacks. There's been plenty of coverage of them. Consequently, significant security improvements, and the team has now returned to what we call routine vulnerability management, which takes up a significant amount of time for Sam and his team. The core and releases workstream, they're ready to release MojaLoop v17.3.0, which they'll be doing fairly shortly. It's a range of stability and performance improvements and fixes for some long-running resource leaks. They were actually identified during the extended performance testing. Performance remains comparable with 17.2, despite the introduction of additional security measures, such as Istio and mutual TLS. Planning for version 18 is already underway, and the emphasis is going to be on extensive adopter validation of the TigerBeetle-based architecture before we go to production. So that's a summary of the work streams. But now I want to bring in something which is not necessarily directly related to work streams, but which I think is potentially very important, and that's gamifying MojaLoop learning. So probably helping to onboard new adopters to the MojaLoop way of doing things. And long-term contributor to MojaLoop, Vijay Kumar, has come up with a very interesting approach to this. So I'm just going to stop sharing if I can work out where that particular button has gone. There it is. And I'm going to hand over to Vijay to present his solution.
Thanks, Paul. Hello, everyone. Can you share my screen? Sorry, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Vijay. I'm working for Infitex as solution architect. So I have been engaging with MojaLoop from the past 6 years. I contributed to MojaLoop core services, testing toolkit, currency conversion, and ISO 20022. So today I'm going to present this interesting concept, which is Moja Arcade. It is gamifying MojaLoop. I know it sounds a bit crazy. Why a payment switch needs a gaming platform? So the answer is simple. It is useful for newcomers. People usually learn things when they are interacting with the platform. So through this gaming platform, they can interact with MojaLoop, a real MojaLoop instance. They can make transfers. So there are 2 concepts, Moja Poly and Moja Rush. The Moja Rush is still being developed. It is a racing style game. We can use this to test the performance of MojaLoop. It uses Grafana K6 under the hood. But let's see the Moja Poly for today. So I'm going to start the game. So this is the starting screen. So here, all the participants, I mean the players in the game, are mapped to pre-configured DFSPs in the switch. And when we click on this provisioning, so all these players will be provisioned in the account lookup service, Oracle. The email IDs of the players instead of MSI SDNs. So this is the game board. I'm sure you are all familiar with Monopoly game. We can roll the dice and purchase the properties. Let me roll the dice. So you can see we can buy this Harbor View for 140. And you can see these 3 stages are the standard MojaLoop stages in the transfer. So this is party lookup, code, and I'm going to accept the code, and transfer happened through the real MojaLoop instance. So I deployed a MojaLoop instance, by the way, along with this. So transfer is committed. Let me end the turn, and let's give bot to play. So it is acquiring a property. You can see the property cards here. Let me roll the dice again. So subsidy program. So I got subsidy from government. Now let's see the transactions here. There are 3 transactions. If we look at this, we can explore the payloads of the transaction. So discovery, quote, and transfer. You can see the payload is in ISO 2022 format. And request, response, callback body. So we can learn about these payloads and how the transfer is happening through MojaLoop. And there is a switch cockpit. So here we can see the positions of these 4 participants. And then also we can see settlement history. And here, if you observe, the settlement will happen in the next 30 seconds. So we can configure an interval. In that interval, settlement will be executed automatically. So I configure 2 minutes for now. So a settlement will happen in the next 20 seconds, but let's not wait for the time, and let's see a previous settlement report. So this is a previous settlement report, bilateral net settlement. If we can see this one, yeah. So there are 3 participants involved in this report: Copa, Central Bank, and Nuru. And we can also see DFSP settlement report. If we click on this, so this is a settlement detail report from the Zawadi DFSP perspective. So there are 2 transactions here with transfer IDs and all. So we can explore different reports and payloads, what's happening inside the MojaLoop. Yeah, so this is the platform, and I prepared documentation for this. I will leave the links in the Zoom chat and also in the Slack channel, MojaLoop Slack channel. There are installation guides and also configuration. If somebody interested, please install on your laptops and connect it to a MojaLoop instance, or you can deploy in your development Kubernetes cluster as well. Please reach out to me if you have any questions. And thanks again for this opportunity, Paul Mackin. Over to you.
Vijay, thank you so much. I think that's great. It's a really good way of introducing people to MojaLoop and explaining how the transactions work and positions and settlement and all the rest. So I hope that anybody who's interested in MojaLoop will have the opportunity to try certainly the Moja Arcade overall. It's brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Move I'll move back to sharing my screen and the presentation. Okay, so moving on from that, I want to briefly go through the progress against the roadmap. And I am aware that I'm probably out of time already. But anyway, let's go. There is a 5-year roadmap. We adopted it at the last MojaCom, March 2026. It sets out short, medium, and long-term goals, and it was based on a pretty extensive analysis of what everybody else in the payment industry is doing, and where the payments are going, and what technologies we should be able to support, etc. Rather than typing a URL for a Google Doc, I put a QR code there. So if you scan that, it'll take you straight to the strategy document. Moving on, the short-term release schedule. 17.2 has obviously been released. 17.3, we originally thought it would be before this MojaCom, but it's going to be slightly after. That doesn't really matter. In terms of what we expected to be in 17.3, well, we've got performance improvements and support for forensic audit. That's all done. Significant security improvements we didn't think was going to be needed. We didn't foresee the AI threat to security, but I think that's understandable. But it's been addressed. We haven't standardized logging, which was going to be one of our objectives for 17.3. There just hasn't been the capacity to address that. And I've put in yellow the things which are well on the way but haven't quite arrived yet, which is PISP 2.0, the LEI support for merchants, and the dispute management portal. 18.0, well, the current hope is it will incorporate the first release of the migration to TigerBeetle, and it will also embed the new accounting model, where we're moving from accounting for engineers to accounting for accountants within the MojaLoop ecosystem. And hopefully it will also include settlement v3 and the appropriate reporting portal. Beyond the very short term, the idea is that MojaLoop should evolve from just being the core switch itself to an ecosystem platform. So establishing a marketplace, which is something we've discussed a lot within the product council, to make community developed capabilities discoverable and reusable, and focusing community governance on compliance, certification, interoperability, rather than developing every feature in the core. We will prioritize overlays that deliver the greatest deployment value: finance portal, ATM integration, merchant payments, TTK, dispute management, offline payments, and allow systems integrators to contribute and maintain differentiating functionality. Inclusion, I think it's increasingly clear that despite it living in an online world, inclusion actually requires us to integrate with offline payment services. It's an inclusion capability, not a niche feature. And by no means suggesting that MojaLoop itself should offer offline payments, because that's never going to be what we do. However, we should support adopters through cash in, cash out, where it's electronic cash in and cash out integration, while avoiding changes to the core. Extend transaction processing, so promote a MojaLoop's agreement of terms model and continue to grow it, and influence others to adopt it. Extend discovery to exchange richer information for fraud prevention. Enhance request to pay with recurring payments, flexible payment timing, customer controls, and for emerging services such as BNPL. Prepare for the next generation of payments. So MojaLoop, position MojaLoop as part of a future payment ecosystem. So integration with PAPS, Swift, Nexus, and DRPP is actually MojaLoop, of course. Through technical integration, MojaLoop as a community will never prescribe business models. Prepare for post-quantum cryptography, and some work has already started on that. Thank you, Sam. Looking at how we might achieve that. given the potential threats that are posed by the arrival of quantum computing. So key priorities, I think that's just a summary of what I've already covered. Sorry if I go so quickly. I know I have no time. Medium-term roadmap. The items in green are completed notionally. Red is just not started. So that's Nexus, Swift, TCIB, and perhaps integration, though we have started to consider those. And things in amber have started but not completed. So cross-border support for MSMEs, you heard Lola talking about that, and the migration to post-quantum crypto. Sam has started to begin thinking about that. Other items here that are not marked at all were not scheduled to start yet. So offline payments, ISO 222 engagement beyond what we're already doing, enhancing RTP. And then in the longer term, we have two issues, compliance, and in particular, the emergence of machine readable regulation, or machine readable and executable regulation, I should say. It is moving from research into practical adoption. We're seeing significant initiatives underway from regulators. Currently, the EU, Bank of England, BIS, already have proof of concepts in operation for that. Academia, the Cambridge RGP and the associated Reg Genome, and there have been industry initiatives as well. The idea is to transform the traditional regulatory rule books into structured executable rules. So reducing interpretation effort and actually confusion, accelerating scheme deployment, and enabling continuous compliance. Although payments ecosystems have yet to adopt MRER, direction of travel is clear and therefore relevant to MojaLoop. So the strategic priorities for MojaLoop include integrating machine-readable rules into deployment and transaction processing, supporting automated compliance reporting, collaborating with the leading MRER initiatives, and validating the approach through a focused proof of concept. So looking at that roadmap, nothing has started on this as yet. We should be at least starting to collaborate with thought leaders, and the University of Cambridge seems like a good place to start. And we probably need to start thinking about developing a strategy for adopters there. AI, saving the most obvious roadmap element for last. Agentic AI potentially presents a significant long-term opportunity. A lot of the concerns that were evident a year ago have at least potential solutions in sight. Example applications, hub operations, liquidity and settlement management, technical operations, system resilience, compliance, automated QA, release management. So with the aim of reducing operational cost, whilst at the same time improving resilience and governance. Safe adoption requires strong governance. AI grounded in trusted data and tools, operating with defined boundaries. And machine readable regulation could enable continuous compliance monitoring and simulation of regulatory change, supporting evidence-based governance across both MojaLoop hubs and the participating DFSPs. So looking at the long-term roadmap, well, we started one of them. You heard Moses talking about this yesterday, developing a machine-readable and executable QA framework. The other items we haven't begun yet, largely because we've had too many other things to think about, but we really need to start working with academic partners and building a strategy here over the next 6 months. So anybody who wants to work with us on this, we would very much welcome. Simply, please just reach out if you have availability. And with that, I'd like to bring it to an end. Thank you very much for listening, if you are.
Thanks, Paul. I think there's one question from Faisal.
Well, Faisal, as you can see, it came in right at the end because it's the longest term aspect of the roadmap. So yes, it is there. And if Faisal, if you wish to contribute and influence that, I'd very much welcome your input.